And we're live. Yeah, finally. Yeah, sorry for being late. First of all, for those who are waiting on us, basically with Bruce, we know each other and basically we can talk, I think, till midnight without any problem. But because I already said his name, you already know the guests. But I always have a nice introduction for the people, I must be honest. So, how it, listen carefully. 3 years ago, when I arrived in Netherlands, so I was an MCT and all the stuff, and I was willing really to, how to say, participate in the MCT community, all that stuff. I was not MVP in that period, indeed. And I picked, first of all, Tiago Costa. And after that, he said, there is a really a nice, perfect guy that you need to get in touch. And I said, who is that guy? And he shared, how to say, he shared a wonderful person, first of all, if I may say like that. I met him, I know already him. So tonight we have the great leader in the Dutch MCT world, if I may call it like that. Bruce, welcome to the show, mate.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin.
It was a nice introduction. I was thinking
That
while I
was
was
very
driving
nice.
from.
Yes. Head off. I
Yeah,
don't have a hat,
thank you.
but
Thank you. Yeah, basically, that's the reality. I'm always honest. I know we know each other, so I was always honest. And this is my, when you, let's be honest, when you travel, when you get in another country, it's really tough to figure it out what is where. And then I met you, and then you said, yeah, Martin, there is these events we are doing, this is what we do, this is how we do, and all the stuff, which is always, kudos. I'm saying like that, kudos to these people, especially to you in this case, and big applause, mate, if we were live like we were planning. But next time we will not share those ideas.
we will do it.
I
We
will
just discussed it.
indeed,
The
and we
possibilities are
will
there.
yeah. So maybe we can throw a hint. So we are preparing for season 2. Yeah. This show will take till end of June, the season 1, and then from September we're planning also a season 2 with a lot of new guests and new people. But also Bruce is here, so we're discussing also Bruce to help me. So and all that stuff. So we're all that discussing. This was just a hint, if I may call it that, what the people to expect in the season 2 of the Diary of MCT and MVP. And yeah, Bruce, mate, how are you? And how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yes, it was a busy day today, but all good.
Yeah,
Like we said, a busy day. Yeah. Of
yeah.
course, I'm. For those who don't know, my name is Bryce Kerseboom, or if you translate my last name to English, it's Cherry Tree. 33 years old. Been in the IT space for, I say, roughly 10 to 12 years. Come from a completely different scene at first because I graduated as a game designer. It's completely different, but hey, you do learn some stuff then.
Yeah.
And I think for now the last six years, something like that, I'm in different architectural roles: cloud architect, data architect. I have a background in data engineering. And upon that, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I started my own company, CloudShift, Microsoft partner. I had some employees, don't have them anymore because I wanted to guarantee all the quality myself. And I often help financial companies and semi-government companies in their cloud transition or data migrations. And so I do at this moment as well for the public sector.
Yeah, but this is for the people that will watch later or that they are watching us now. And now the reality about Bruce, he is a hardworking guy, 24/7. So whenever you write to him, he's replying to you guys. So you don't need to worry if you ping him on LinkedIn and all that stuff. But what I fully agree, Bruce is a full entrepreneur, if I may call it that, an entrepreneur vibe he has in it. And he is always doing some nice things, which I think he will share in the lab. I think later this year, maybe some of the things and all that stuff that he's building and his free time and all the stuff. But in total, he's coming, from a different world of the stuff, but he's a classical IT geek, if I may call it like that, but with big entrepreneur heart. Yeah. And I think everyone can notice the servers in behind him and all that stuff. So indeed, really nice to hear. I didn't know that you're 12 years basically in this completely.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't have I don't take count anymore, but it's
Okay.
about 12
Okay.
years in IT. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. First of all, because you went to another topic, I wanted to ask you something different. Did
Sure.
you watch Microsoft Build a little bit? Did you touch
No,
upon the news
no,
of
no.
books?
I actually do not have the time to watch. I just
Okay.
watched before, like an hour ago. I did watch a Fireship video on YouTube. I don't know for those who
Yeah,
know it, but
yeah, yeah.
they
I saw
often
the video. I
make
saw the video.
a little bit of the meme videos about
Yeah,
what's hot in tech. And I saw that they actually also made Copilot open source now, especially the GitHub Copilot one. And I was like,
yeah.
wow, I would not have expected that from Microsoft.
Indeed. Yesterday, Satya announced it, by the way, a lot of new things about Copilot. Agents everywhere, by the way. So that is my conclusion. Agents. What was new?
Yeah,
Agents. Everywhere,
yeah,
agents.
and MCP servers.
Yes, and MCP. And now I think for the MCP, if I remember good, now it will be also in the Windows computers.
Yeah, correct.
That's
Windows
the thing.
11.
And that will be open source, I think, if I remember good. How he
No, they
present.
also open sourced Linux. The what is it? The subsystem for Linux.
Yeah, yeah, subsystem indeed, VSL, WSL,
Yeah,
something like that. Indeed, it was. Wow, yeah, it's a lot of new things. A lot of things are coming out and coming, heading to us, if I may call it like that. I don't know how to say that. Is it for work or for learning? First of all, I don't know sometimes what type of conclusion to make in all the stuff, because also for us it's a new things. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not that
true.
we knew
Yeah,
for about this from last year and now it's presented. It's completely new that also we get the news yesterday, if I may call it like that, what is new and how this is heading towards the world, if I may call it like that. But it's a big
true.
interesting things for me. The very funny thing is the Entra ID agents. I'm really curious to explore that one, to see how powerful will be and what will be his mission, if I may call it like that. Does will relate with creating MPA accounts, applications. What will happen? I'm really curious. I must be honest with you. But let's see how it will go in total.
That
Did you
would
use
be
the
great.
Copilot Studio? I didn't ask you, or you didn't try.
Copilot Studio. No, I have not used Copilot Studio before, but what I did
Okay.
do is actually just work. I was always say like this, right? Or this all things that Microsoft offers as a SaaS. You also have the
Yeah.
do-it-yourself version in Azure, and I'm more like into that, right? So no, I did not work with Copilot Studio yet. But I did work with Azure OpenAI, the
Yeah.
OpenAI and the Azure AI Foundry, and actually made even at some of my clients already some POCs with it.
Yeah, yeah, and why I'm asking, because yesterday, or no, it happened last week. There was
Hmm.
one training about Copilot agents and all that stuff. I said, "Is this again in AI Foundry?" And I was searching 15 minutes like a crazy person in AI Foundry, Copilot agents, nothing. And then I open Copilot, and it opens the main Copilot, where you can
Hmm.
search and all this. And then I found it on Google. I must be honest, Copilot Studio. I said, is this a different portal? Yeah. Then you need to have a work
Yeah,
account. Okay. Then you need to pay for a subscription. Okay. And then you
which
can build the
is
agents.
yeah, and Copilot Studio subscription. It depends on how you do it. You can do it pay as you go, or you're gonna do it
Yeah.
tenant wise. And it tenant wise, I think it's what was it? I spoke with actually with Microsoft about it today,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
earlier this afternoon. I think it was 250 euros for a tenant
Ooh,
subscription per month. That's quite expensive.
okay. Yeah.
Well, at
Indeed.
least if you're like a contractor or anything like that, or a
Yeah.
small company, then
Yeah.
or if you just want to do it out of curiosity, that's quite
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
20-30 euros was if you want to take me or you as a subscription level, if I may say like that, for example, monthly. It's works something like Office 365 completely,
yeah, yeah,
but it's a little bit more expensive. Let's call it like that.
true, true, yeah, yeah, and then it's of course that do you really reap the benefits from it? Because I also have already had discussions with multiple of my clients and also with some fellow colleague MCTs that
Yeah.
always say, and 9 out of 10 times I actually do hear, and is that while Copilot is very nice and that can really help, as
Yeah.
if the organization is not let's say their data management, for example, is not up to
Okay.
date. So you can't really find that, for example, SharePoint is not really configured correctly, or it's too open even.
Yeah.
Copilot does not always work that well. So it's actually always what you
Okay.
hear, garbage in and garbage out.
Yeah.
And then they don't really reap the benefits from it. And then they often just really go back to like, I just want to have conversational AI and search my Google prompts in ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a valid point indeed. And now coming back to why I asked also you
Hmm.
this question. 2, 3 weeks ago, I got access to something that is called Manus. Maybe you have seen that video. There was on internet published one short video on 1 minute where he gave agents, basically 15 agents,
Hmm.
and they work parallel, I don't know, stock market or something. So they work
Hmm.
basically based on your prompt. And I got a
Hmm.
free access. This is just my observation and how well this was quite good. I added a prompt. Please create a website with this content, with that content, with this. It was needed 3 minutes, 4 minutes. He prepared a package so I can download and upload to some FTP server somewhere and
Hmm.
install WordPress or whatever you want there, depends what you use. You have a full website with the content on it and all. It was a basic website, but I want to say
Yeah.
he basically execute all these agents, basically connected the dots, worked, executed, and done the stuff. So I was thinking maybe that you have been exploring maybe the Copilot. So that's why I was heading with this question.
Ah.
If you were using a Copilot, or some more informations, if I may say it like that,
Yeah. No.
based
No.
on that.
No, no, not really. What I did do with more on the agent side, and I already did it before it became cool, I would say so,
Okay.
is you have an open source tool called
Okay.
N8N or Nodemation, so
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
n8n.io, and
yeah,
they actually were one of the, I think, first open source workflow tools because it little bit feels like Logic apps. And
yeah,
well,
yeah,
of course, when I became an MVP, it was based on Logic apps.
yeah,
That no, I also did something in on the blockchain with it. That's where I
yeah.
started my use cases. And then when they started doing AI on it, and you can make such a great automations on it. It's super easy. It's all low code. It's all based on variables. You can make all
Yeah.
kinds of agents in like matter of seconds and really
Cool.
reap the benefits from that because you can automate your email
Yeah.
in 5 minutes or something. And that's
Indeed.
something I haven't seen a Copilot do yet.
Yeah. So just to confirm on what you said now, a N
Mhm.
to N basic and 8N. I think it
Yeah,
was like that.
yeah, and eight
Yesterday,
and yeah.
yeah. So I was watching MS Build and such aids, and I was thinking, I'm saying to my wife, agents everywhere. And then I came to conclusion, thinking on something. I said, N8N, it's
Mhm.
mostly marketing stuff because that is what I
Yeah,
noticed, to be completely honest with you.
true, true, true.
Automation, social leads, sales, this. And Copilot and AI Found, it's completely technical stuff where if you're a techie guy, you can go
Mhm.
deep dive. I don't know, pipelines, deployments, architecture, this, that you can do on that side, and the marketing takes on the left side, which I was right. I wanted to say. So thank you about this. And to A and 8N, I didn't know that a lot of people know that don't work marketing, if I may call it like that. Maybe
Uh,
that was my observation, but it's good to hear that you have seen that already, mate.
Yeah, yeah, and but also on the techie side, right? You can actually, because it just works with APIs. Everything is an API,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you can
yeah,
just write blank. If you're familiar with JavaScript, or you can do a little bit
yeah.
of Python, you can also write that in there, and you can really really do amazing stuff with it. You can even everything because it's JavaScript based, and for those who are developers and know have a little bit of knowledge of npm packages, you can just install an npm package and work with it.
Yeah,
Or people create connectors, and they are basically just npm packages, and you install them.
true.
And there are also some things for Microsoft, right? So you can connect directly with the Microsoft Graph, with your email account,
Emails. Yeah.
with Entra ID. So you can actually make already, you already
What
could make your Entra ID
indeed.
agent if you wanted.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
That's
so,
true.
it's really cool. And there is even, and me as also a data nerd, there is one thing that really impressed me when they released their agent,
Okay.
first agent, and that was they have a SQL agent. And what that actually
Wow.
does is it connects to your database and you
Okay.
can just ask questions over your data. So it gets like more reader access because you don't want to give
Yeah,
it
yeah.
write access, of course, but you give
True.
it reader access. But if you, for example, are let's say you want to query, you want to explore data in a database, you don't know what's in there yet. You don't know what kind of schemas are there. You, for example, don't know what you're looking for yet. You can just
Okay.
ask it. You can prompt it. It will go through it because it indexed everything, and it
Yeah.
just shows you like, hey, oh, you're looking for I don't know, bicycles. If you look at the one that they always put in for the self, the Kutoso bike shop or
Oh,
something like
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
know that's
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah. Coffee
from
shop
back in
and
the
bike
day.
shop. Indeed,
Yeah, yeah,
indeed.
something like that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then you can
yeah.
say like, yeah, I'm looking for a bike, a black color, blah blah, and it gives you where that information is, and that's really nice.
Wow. Wow. That's really fantastic. I didn't know. Somehow, you know, talking on this topic, basically, somehow I was expecting that this will come with Power Platform. I must be honest with you, because that was the main work of the Power Platform. The same,
Yeah,
what almost the same, what N8N is doing, maybe a little bit advanced level, but Power Platform was really powerful to do all of this stuff, if I may call it like that. Prepare your email, send your email, automate this, automate that, automate all of these things that are part of our daily life, like morning routine, afternoon routine, or whatever they are. Indeed,
well,
indeed,
yeah. So
nice.
it's really great, and that's for an open source tool, and that's why I think
Yeah,
it was really cool to hear that Microsoft also made Copilot, or at least get a Copilot open source, because
yeah,
it will just improve the service. Because what you now have is a lot of developers and engineers that actually can go work with the code, improve it. And we all know a lot of people like GitHub. So they're
yeah.
going to download and fork the repo. They're going to work with it. They're going to tweak it. They're going to make it better, and they're going to submit
Indeed,
it. Yeah,
indeed,
that's how
indeed.
it works.
Yeah, and this triggers me another question. Yeah, you said nice that yeah, with the GitHub you can do this, and that, and then it can be improved and all the stuff. But let's not forget, because usually how I see on the things, there is always a good side and bad side. There is
True.
also bad side. What do you expect? I'm just curious from your experience or what you have seen, mate, if I may call it like that. From your experience, what you have seen on the bad side, for example, what can go wrong in everything that we are discussing now, agents and all this stuff? I'm just curious.
Oh, well, I think a lot can go wrong because it all depends on a
True.
little bit of ethics, right?
Yeah.
And with AI and how more advanced it becomes, and especially with agents, and if they can, for example, if, let's be honest, we already talked about the MCP service and all that kind of things. A lot of things
Yeah.
can really be automated on its own, basically. What is it? Text to speech becomes way better now with some of the AI models that
True.
are out there. Yeah, I think it's also like for, and this is maybe a case here in the Netherlands, and I think it will be in more countries, but you still have a lot of phone scams. And
True.
I can imagine that now also for call centers, they're gonna use AI, especially also in combination
Indeed.
with Teams.
Already are
Uh,
using.
yeah, yeah. Now, so
Already.
if that, yeah, so if that even improves more, I think a lot of scam calls can actually sound very realistic, for example, with AI.
Indeed.
But not only that, I think it's also another bad side is that we have all seen phishing mails, for example, when it comes to security
True.
to security aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I've used, for example, the Cursor AI, which is a fork of VS
Yeah.
Code, and then with
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with with, with Claude 3.7, for example. And if you just say, and if you can just say like, hey, give me a fancy website that exactly looks like this website, and in a matter of seconds, you have a copy of the Microsoft website, for example.
Indeed.
It's very astonishing, the technology behind it, but also very scary because you really have to pay attention to URLs now, which can also be fake to a certain degree.
True.
And I can, well, maybe not always for the I would say our generation, but if I look at more at my parents, who are in their 70s, yeah, I can imagine that can really become an issue.
Indeed.
More than it already is or was.
True. It's a big issue. What I see, as we mentioned a little bit, we cannot completely resolve the issue, if I may call it like that. But usually, I think our power as a MCTs, if I may call it like that, to educate the people, just to say, guys, everything is possible. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, in your daily life, when you're walking, somebody can hit you, if I may say like that, and basically that's it, and all the stuff. But I agree. I like it. One word that you mentioned, everything's about ethics here, but also mature, I would add here, and how we act and react on those things. So I think a lot of education will be needed in the next 10 years, in my view, because this will not, will not go so easy. It will take some time in the next 5-10 years minimum. I would say that it will be a big explosion with agents, text to voice. And one more thing, I gave a training a couple of months ago to Shell, also Netherlands. They're exploring the AI vision, by the way, to map the fields and all that stuff where they have those things. But the camera in United States, it's allowed. For here in Europe, is not working still because of the EU regulations, I suppose, but also the first thing, the privacy. And I think once they enable that, then we will see the dark side. That's my opinion, to be completely honest.
If you're gonna do it CCTV style, then yeah, certainly, yeah.
Indeed.
Now some cameras are already allowing it, right? Because you guys can already see it. I have my Ubiquiti rack here behind me. Ubiquiti has a lot of cameras nowadays as well for their security section of products, and those have AI built in it as well. Automatic number plate detection, number plate detection, facial recognition, all that kind of stuff. But also, for example, in public transport, there are also all algorithms built in. For example, when you're in the tram or in I don't think it's in buses yet, but I think it is in trams and metros. So they can detect, for example, if a traveler becomes aggressive, or if if they didn't check in, stuff like that. So there are all some forms of when you apply it to cameras that are allowed to a certain degree, but of course with privacy taken into account.
Yeah, indeed. Usually even in the organization where am I now, well, we see AI agents and everything that is happening, but then you get a lot of people. I think from the business side, somebody mentioned a couple of weeks ago there was around 2,000 people. I think it's a public. How it's called, public news, that around 2,000 people were, tricked. Hey, we are calling from this organization. You need to send us 2,000 euros or something like that. But there was a lot of more people than these 2,000, if I may call it that. But those were calling their kids, son, or the neighbor. Hey, somebody called me. Somehow this is not the organization, or that is not my bank, and all that stuff. And then the guy just, said, don't call, don't send anything, don't worry, and all that stuff, because there is a lot of people that live by itself. So just they both. And as you said, also your experience with your parents, if I may say, they don't follow agents and all that stuff. What they want to do is enjoy their life, just to go for a walk, drinks, or whatever there. So, So I want to say, this type of mature education, maybe it need to be also raised. What I'm thinking also, the municipality, basically, to send some flyers, if I may call it like that, because there is all around the world. It's not just here. Older people that are not aware of all of these things. Let's call it like that, and that can be quite bad.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just older, only older
Younger,
people.
indeed.
Also,
Yeah,
especially younger people, because if really look, and I don't want to give it a label, but let's say Gen Z,
yeah,
the
yeah,
makes it easier.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if you're watching, you're from that generation.
Yeah.
It's not particularly you that that I want to mention, but just to give up a younger generation.
I imagine,
Um,
sorry to interrupt you, I imagine 20 years from now, me and you older, and then our
Yeah,
kids,
well,
yeah, look, that
yeah,
is what they were
yeah,
complaining of.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? No, but if you look at the younger generation, and they have all different kind of things that we encountered when we were younger, of course, but now especially also with social media, and you see, we all live in a world now where social media is quite important. TikTok is important, Instagram is important, but you also see it there, right? All the
Yeah,
filters on the photos, the AI
true.
generated videos,
Content.
AI
Yeah,
generated products that influencers try to sell, which are just fake. All that kind of stuff. That also really involves quite a lot, quite a big group of people, and especially the
indeed.
younger ones. Um, and yeah, that's also something that might need some part of education. Now,
Yeah,
luckily, especially when you mentioned MCT, us as being an MCT, luckily Microsoft has already some trainings for that, especially not really on a technical level, but really on a business level.
yeah,
I can remember very nicely, like a few months ago, that there were actually when it was announced that there are now, like, what was it, 6 or 7 trainings for
yeah.
end users
Okay.
nowadays to actually learn how to use AI responsible, especially then
Yeah,
in a business wise, but as a business user, right? So it's as
yeah,
an end
true.
user. Um, so that is nice, and since, let's be honest, a lot of people, especially in Europe, work with Microsoft.
Yeah,
I haven't really
most of the
heard any.
customers. Yeah,
Most of the customers. Google Workspace. I hear it sometimes, or Google Cloud, and it's the same goes for AWS. I hear it sometimes, but especially in
yeah,
the Netherlands, I think 80% is Microsoft, even if not
indeed.
more, and I think that also counts for some neighboring countries.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's great, especially now with Microsoft, of course, embedding Copilot into almost everything.
yeah,
That form of education is available, and that we as MCTs can actually help organizations bring
indeed.
awareness on the AI subject.
Indeed. And now it triggers me one idea, maybe because what I notice, or from my childhood, I notice maybe it's good to start with the schools, even with the, yeah, in
Yeah,
Netherlands, it's from 4 years old. And basically, the kids are really, how to say, can spread to the world, if I may call it like that. So they can spread to the
true.
family. Yeah. And they can just say, yeah, Grammy, great daddy, and this and that. Look, this is for your iPhone. I don't know, your Android, and this, and the people wants that, if I may say, hey, what this kid is talking about. And if you raise the kid also on that level from the really early ages to be aware, this is a computer, this is internet, with
Yeah,
basics thing. I'm not saying let's go to GPT 4.0 or GPT 4.5 or whatever, but from the basic to the basically till end of the education. And I think I must be honest with you now, and for people, I was planning to go to the principal here where my daughters are going, to be honest, just to, even me as an MCT, I don't need any money, anything. Or maybe, if there is a English speaking, if I may call it that. If not, there is a Dutch speaking, so I can take you or Edwin or anyone else from the Dutch MCT community, just 1 hour. I think
yeah.
you'll be more than happy, the kids, to hear all of that stuff. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, and also Microsoft itself does a lot of it. For those who don't know,
True.
I have an office space here at Microsoft, so I'm
Yeah.
actually in the Microsoft HQ NL right now. So there are like a
Satya,
floor
it's on the
below
left
me.
side. Satya, it's
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
left
yeah,
side
yeah, yeah,
office.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know, right? I always drink coffee with him during now.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is actually downstairs on the first floor at Microsoft here in the Netherlands. Also, for those who don't know, it's an open space. So if you actually want to
Yeah.
work here one day, you can do that.
Yeah.
They do have some free workspaces here, but in the back they now created like this, yeah, how to say it? It's like full of pillows and
Yeah. Yeah.
all kinds of cushions, and often schools, actually elementary schools, come there and like on a gamified way they learned some things that Microsoft actually teaches to lower education, or in this call, what is it? K13, I think it was something called in the
Okay.
US, all that kind of stuff, like elementary school
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and middle school. But they actually have words for that in the US. But you actually can go there with your school and actually learn about some technology or
That's cool.
some subject. So I think AI will be part of it eventually as well, or maybe it already is. I haven't seen it, but sometimes I see like a whole group of kids like walking here,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all
Oh,
with the
that's so
backpacks
nice.
on, and it is kind of cool
Cool.
to
Indeed.
see that
So
Microsoft actually
nice.
does stuff with that.
Indeed, indeed. But I think it's a valid point. Maybe, yeah, it's a good idea, to be honest with you now, to discuss maybe or just to explore to see what we can improve, if I may call it that,
Yeah,
as a experienced people. And we are not that we are now in the government, but we have some knowledge on the MCT side. We have some connections. So maybe we can do some stuff. I'm calling like that. Indeed. Wow. Nice topic. Yeah, it's
so
always
call to
with you
all.
some ideas, so many
Yeah.
ideas with you. Ah, bro. Oof. Okay. Okay. Enough ideas. Then we need to create a business plan till end of this episode. So,
Oh, I will add it
uh,
to I add it to my list of 50 that I already have floating
yeah.
around.
But I'll set that, mate. If I may ask like that, I'll set these 30 minutes with AI agents, and it's going so fast. Let's be honest,
Yeah,
both of us. Also for us, it's quite fast. I suppose for you is the same, even to follow what is next, what is coming, and all that
yeah.
stuff. I think our starting point was not so fast. It was going so slow, I would say, to grow and to learn with this AI, because we are coming. What is our generation? I don't know. It's this is Z. Our it's
Millennials, I would say.
millennials. Okay. So we as a millennials, if I may say, or in this case, you, how you started, mate, with the computers and all that stuff.
How did I start? Oof, mate, that's a long time ago.
Did you
So
start with Nintendo first of all? Did you start with Nintendo, if I may slice like that?
yeah, I had a Nintendo 64
Yeah.
when it was released, and actually I had the original Game Boy, then not the color one, but the
Yeah,
real
yeah.
the big gray one
Indeed, the
with
expensive one. We were calling expensive one.
well, I don't know if it was expensive, but my
Indeed.
parents bought it for me, of course. But I do remember that when Pokemon came out, Pokemon Red and Blue,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's a long time ago, and it was always sold out. And I ran into the Bart Smith because then back in the
yeah,
day that was one of the toy stores here in the Netherlands, and I saw it, and my mom was still walking across the street because I was already running there as a little
yeah,
kid, and I
yeah.
was shouting like, "Yes, mom, they have Pokemon Blue and Red. I want one." And so so yeah. So I had some. I already was early on early adopter when it came to video games, at least.
Yeah,
But I can remember that my dad worked for the PTT, or later KPN.
yeah.
And well, for those who don't know, it's a big telco in the Netherlands,
Internet
telecommunications,
provided and also
internet provider.
telecommunication
Yeah,
and all
exactly.
stuff. Indeed.
And back in the day, and I think it was 1996, because I'm from 91, and
Wow.
that's when where we got our first computer. And I can still remember that we had the ISDN modem, like the beep, 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 you have to call in, and then we could read like news about I think it was Bill Clinton or something
Yeah,
on the internet, stuff like that. What he did with his secretary, I think it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
No, but those were the early things, and then of course you had like the games on the floppy disks, and that's when it actually started, you know, and then it was eventually the real stupid things like,
I'm
hey, oh, I know,
curious now in what
yeah.
type of storage somewhere here at your side gets
Mhm.
stuck the news about Bill Clinton and his secretary. I'm really curious from where on this earth you get that information somewhere here. Yeah, that was my beginning with the
I
computer.
have no
I
clue. I
read
have really
about
no
Bill
clue.
Clinton.
I have really no clue, but that is one of the moments that I can remember back in the day. That that that, that was one of the first, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
news websites of course, that was all the time when browsers became a thing as well, and
yeah,
then of course you had the basically if you now go to the MSN website, right? It's just a news page, and
indeed.
those things became like well, a thing back then.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
how can we consolidate all the news? And I think that was one of the main topics on that website.
yeah,
So yeah, that was kind of that's where it began. Then eventually, of course, that grew into oh, I can change an icon on my on the desktop, and or oh, I made a picture in Paint, stuff like
yeah, yeah,
that. Um, and I think throughout my whole youth, I've been always into computers, especially gaming.
yeah.
That's why eventually, when I was like, what was it, 18, 19, I did
Okay.
got my degree in game design because it was like, am I gonna do IT or am I gonna do games? And well, you're still young, you're naive, you think I like to game, so I want to build
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
That's what I was.
indeed.
That was what it was for me.
What
But
was your
before
first
that,
game, mate? Sorry to interrupt you. What was your
ooh,
first game?
my first
On
game.
computer,
On the
not on.
computer.
Yeah,
Ooh. I think it was Mickey Mouse Alphabet or something.
Mickey Mouse alphabet. Does that
Yeah, yeah,
exist really? It's not a TV
yeah.
show, cartoon. It's
No,
a
yeah.
game. Wow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, because my dad was working for the
Yeah,
KPN or the PTT back in the day, and he had some IT
yeah,
colleagues, and they know how to basically instead of burning on CDs, they could make the floppy disk, so they
yeah,
could
yeah.
get all the games, put it on there, and I had a shit ton of games to play. So there was also
Wow.
a lot of first of all I got a lot of educational games, like indeed the alphabet with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. Freddy Fish was one of the
Wow.
games that I had early on. Um, and those things were also really fun, you know. They were educational.
True,
There were puzzle games, and that did
true,
spark a curiosity, right? To well, not only to learn, but also to you know use problem solving skills.
true, true. And
And let's.
I fully agree. And why I'm asking all of this because, for example, what I notice now, I'm not a big fan of
Mm,
this. How to say? GTA, yeah, San Andreas or all that. GTA. I think is
GTA,
the GTA.
GTA, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, that was my first or Max Payne. I remember back in the days I was playing. You go and kill people, if I may say it like that.
yeah,
Maybe it's a different generation view and all that stuff. But back in the days, there was a couple of strategies, and you built something, city, village,
yeah,
houses, families, how you earn
A-
money. Let's call
yeah.
it like that.
Age of
Then you have,
Empires,
yeah,
all that kind of
indeed.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Roy
then you have
Tycoon.
this with education, what you shared, and then I don't know where we got stuck and get really like games to kill people on the street and drive with the car in front of that. And why I'm saying all of this because I remember it was 2014. Friend
Yeah,
of mine, older, quite older. He have a kid. It was I think 5 and 6, and that was in that period. GTA 1, 2, or something, or San Andreas, something like that. And the guys took me from home. I installed the game, and then they took give me a ride back. And the kid was so happy. Hey, thank you, Martin. Thank you a lot. He was hugging me, and they were, Daddy, why you're stopping? Go through the person and all that stuff, because he was watching on the game. He was really influenced bad, if I may call it.
no, no.
So I think we stuck also on that side. Again, I'm coming back 15, 20 minutes about ethics, about where these games, why, yeah, sometimes maybe, I don't know, maybe it's good to put all your nervous things and all the shit, if I may call it like that, during the day put in the game instead of somebody on the street. But again,
True.
why we need this type of games at the end of the day? It's a really tricky question, I know. But what's your opinion, if I'm asked like that? Did you ever play this type of games, mate?
Yeah, of course. I've played all types of games, and of course I've played my Call of Duty and
Yeah, indeed.
the war reenactments and Counter
Yeah,
Strike and also the fantasy ones with Destiny and you name it. And of course I've also played GTA. Right?
yeah, yeah.
It's
True.
it's just something you try, you do, and the so for me it's not really games that I enjoy. I don't like first person shooters or anything like that. It's not
Yeah,
that because of the violence,
yeah.
because I know it. For me at least, I can understand it's a game, so that's
True.
fine, and if you like
True.
it and you want to do that competitive, or you want to do it in an esports setting, great, good for you.
Yeah,
uh, but what I like, and especially what I said already with exploring and learning and stuff like that, so if I look for myself, I like RPG games, right? That you
yeah,
have to complete freedom in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
game to create your own storyline, do whatever you want, how you want to build your character. And that's where I get the most pleasure out of. For all the little bit of older watchers, or the older millennials like me,
Yeah.
if you ever played RuneScape before, I actually just played it this weekend. I had some time for it. I got 99 magic and 99 HP. Yes. After a long time. No, but besides that, no, back to the topic. Violence in games is always a big controversy. I
Indeed.
can understand from a lot of for a lot of things that it's for some people it's actually an how to say it in English. Um, uh,
Bad
it's so
influence or
no,
something?
no, yeah, no, it's more like that. It's a
To
way of
throw it out,
to throw it out,
the frustration.
to throw out the frustration, and for other people really go deep into it. But I think that also depends on your own mindset, right? I know for some back in the day, because I also played World of Warcraft, for
Yeah.
example.
Oh yeah.
I think there was a story in Finland, I think 15 years
Yeah,
ago
yeah.
or something like that. There was a guy that that played World of Warcraft, went completely bonkers with it, got a katana, went onto the street and hacked up some people. And I was like, yeah, that can also happen, right? And
True.
I I think that it also depends on how you are as a person, how acceptive are you for these kind of things. And of course you can put the PGA rating on it, like you have to be 18 or high, or older, or there is violence in it, drinking, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatsoever. But putting it on a box does not mean that people will ignore it, or that parents will actually take notice of it, because in the end of the
True.
day people will do it anyway. For example, before the podcast, I actually watched one of the Dutch shows from Arjan Lubach
Oh
about
yeah.
uh, cell phones, cell
Yeah.
phone use by kids on elementary school. And nowadays,
True.
almost every kid has a cell phone, and if you don't have one, you're getting bullied because you don't have one,
Indeed.
and then you're the one that doesn't have it. You feel a lot of group pressure, and that's also a lot of things that people now than now experience. And I think, yeah,
Indeed.
it's a crazy world. Basically, for a lot of things, and we're going off topic a lot already, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of things when it comes to the world is fucked up. Let's
Yeah.
say it
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. But looking at our perspective again, we're
Yeah,
coming back again. I think to the same end, if same end, oh, same goal. I think we can have some improvement if I make some
certainly.
improvement here on this educational side. Again, it's
Yeah,
again the power of MCT. At the end of the day, what we can do, and I think that's the best that we can do for the community, if I may call it like that, or
yeah,
for the people around that. And this education, it's again, yeah, there is a Minecraft also. I would say,
true.
that I saw a lot of kids also in the neighborhood that at work also there is a people, if I may call it, older people that they really enjoy playing Minecraft, if I may call it, building, doing that,
Yep.
doing this, which is quite okay. But there is also indeed this better side of all of these games where we can see, what can happen or what can go wrong. But we can try to, how to say, improve that, and basically just to make it on a positive and the end of the day, if I may call it like that.
True. Yeah,
And now back
for
to your
sure.
story. You can continue
Yes.
now. How you
Yeah, back
continue
to
with
my
the
story.
computers? Yeah.
I computed. Yeah. So I think yeah, after a few of those games, going to elementary school, and I think when I went to high school, I started to build my own computers.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Um, Yeah, of course, not back in the day we didn't have the great graphic cards and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was your entry level computer, but it was a cool experience. Of course, 9 out of 10 times it also went bad because nobody knew that you had to wear the anti-static bracelet, or I didn't do it at least. You fried your CPU or your motherboard because you touched it, stuff like
True.
that. It all happened. Been there, done that. Didn't get the
Yeah.
T-shirt, but did get the experience. I think and that's I think mostly it. When it really came to computers, like I mentioned just before,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we're talking about games, I played RuneScape. I also played it
Yeah.
back in the day since elementary school. I actually play it already, so since like 2000 and 2003, I wanted to say, but yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's a very long time ago. Yeah, I know.
20,
Uh,
22
yeah,
years ago.
almost 22 years. Yeah, of course the game got a re-release, right? So the older progress went now to RuneScape 3, and they released old school RuneScape like in something 2009 or something like that, or maybe 2015. I don't remember anymore. But
Yeah.
I've been playing it quite, and I don't play it daily or something. I play like maybe 2 3 days in a weekend if I have time, and then I don't touch it for like 6 months because I don't have time. That happens. I'm
Indeed.
a very very casual gamer. But
Yeah.
back in the day, I think when I finished high school, and of course during that time I was a real nerd, right? I also, even because I played RPGs, I actually went to do LARP, live action role playing, like
Yeah.
create your own character, get an armor,
Yeah. Yeah.
dress up and go to a scouting site and play in the woods for like for 3 full days as a knight or something else. I actually did that as well for 16 whole years. So
Wow.
yeah. um, then I became a dad and I didn't have time anymore. That's
Yeah.
basically how it goes. But I think when I finished high school, I had to make like I said before, I make that decision, like do I go into IT or do I go into game
Game.
design or
Yeah.
creating games? And that was because I was interested in application design, like building applications,
Okay.
more the code side, and game design in more of the thinking out of levels, right? How to make
Yeah.
an something engaging, but also how does that look? And I'm not the greatest graphical designer, I can tell you that. My 2D skills really suck, but in
Yeah.
3D I can actually manage quite a lot. And around that time, I also started programming. And
That's
I do not
nice.
call myself a programmer because certainly I'm not a programmer. I can read a lot of languages, but do not ask me something to write something from scratch. If you want me to write like code for databases
Yeah.
or some simple web apps like a website or storefront or anything like that, yes, I can manage that. I can also write some JavaScript for everything, but a whole application from scratch, that's not really my cup of tea. If you want the architecture behind it and how to
Yeah.
integrate a lot of things, that I can manage really, but not really writing the whole thing myself. But back in the day, I created for RuneScape, I created bots, and you had to write that in
Oh.
Java.
Oh,
So
that's
actually, that's also where basically my IT career, because all we now do, it doesn't really matter if you do data or if you do cloud
yeah.
engineering.
True.
It's all automation. So what did
Yeah.
I do? I automated my game, and that was actually quite cool because 9 out of 10 times it's all if statements because classes wasn't really a thing back then. But actually, it automated like Okay, I go to a tree, I kind of chop some wood, I'm gonna collect that. And at the end of the day, I just sell it to a player, got a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
money, and then you level up, you level up, you level up, and then the account becomes it gets like a certain amount of levels or a certain amount of gold, and you sell the whole account or you sell the gold, something like that. Of course, I know
Wow.
Jagex, if you're watching this, I know I was doing illegal stuff back in the day, but that's 10 years, 20 years ago. Statute of limitation
Wow.
doesn't really matter
Wow.
anymore. But the thing is, that's when I started with automation. And the cool thing was, as a student, it also gives you an extra buck
Yeah.
in your wallet.
True.
Um, and also from that point of view, what I noticed, what really drove me, is doing things as efficient and optimized as possible. And that was also something during my studies in game design.
Yeah.
We worked with Unity 3D. Yeah, that's also something that you quite often see. I think Microsoft also uses it quite a lot for demos and all that kind of purposes when it comes to 3D spaces. Um, and you can also in Unity you can program right with C Sharp.
Okay.
Also a little bit of JavaScript kind of language. And for example, there was, and it still doesn't exist. So I'm going to give you my great, my one of my great business ideas. Um, in 3D, when you do 3D modeling, you can also animate a character, right? It's called rigging. You
Yeah.
give it a skeleton and it
Okay.
can move and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can make like a character dance or something.
Yeah.
These characters are all created out of polygons, as it's called. It's like the 3D
Okay.
meshes, the
Yeah. Yeah.
squares or the triangles, if you do it if you do it like that. And these have these points, and these points go into 3D. So that's like there is like an if you rig it, your character, all these points move through 3D space. Now there is like this ver- op, how to say it, this way of animating that if you rig your character like that
Okay.
and you move it,
Okay.
you can record that, because that's how you make your animations.
Yeah.
But there is an option that you can export it to point cache, as it's called. So it's more like
Mm.
where do those vertices, those points in 3D space, where are they? And we record where they move to. And then
Okay.
at the end, you can, for example, remove the skeleton that you create, and you just save those
Okay.
animations. Where go the 3D vertices go? Well, that's all nice and dandy, but how does that really help? Now, if you look at, for example, when you build this like a game, you can
Okay.
use your GPU and you can use your CPU.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to render all the 3D objects
True.
in the environment. And one of the things that what I noticed was, and that was still back when I did my studies, like what is it, 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, is the new iPhones came out, mobile games become very popular,
Oh, indeed.
but
Indeed.
but you couldn't really do any high end stuff on it because you're limited to the processor on your phone or the graphics on your phone. So everything needs to
True.
be low poly, as it was called. Everything needed to be a little bit more
Of
square
course.
instead of roundish, and it
Yeah.
really it's like the nostalgia you get from old school RuneScape. It's all blocky. Um, but if you would create like how you would normally design your levels, hey, you create a nice looking environment, you have like different textures on your characters, on your environment itself, you have the different animations, you'll get all kinds of draw calls, as it's called, like all the things
Okay.
that your CPU needs to, all the actions your CPU needs to do. And the more draw calls you have, the heavier the game becomes, not only just in gigabytes or MB or how you want to call it, but also
Yeah.
in how much performance at stake. But you can allow batching, especially in Unity, you can allow
Yeah.
batching. So what I came up with already during my studies is like, hey, for example, animations, they take a lot of draw calls because it's like you have the character yourself,
Okay.
you have the skeleton, and then when the animation is playing and everything added up, so you can get already like 10 draw calls, which was quite a lot
True.
already for a mobile phone with just one character.
True.
Like I said, I
For
already
one
explained,
character.
I liked RPGs, so I also like
Yeah.
the online versions, the MMO, so like playing
Yeah.
with a lot of other characters and interacting with other people. Um, so how does that happen if you have 100 people on your screen? Yeah, that's not gonna work. But what I
True.
noticed is that if you create like a character and you slice it up in everything in smaller pieces than 300 vertices, so it is like
Okay.
300 only 300 pieces in space per thing. So let's say
Okay.
like a hand and then an upper arm and a body and the head and the trousers and then the feet, all that kind of stuff. And you put the animation in a point cache animation, and instead of having like 6 times of different textures, but you just move
Okay.
it into like one texture. So like, how is your character dressed? How does it look color wise?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could you could all get it to like 3 draw calls or something. And if every character or piece in the environment shared the same texture, because you can make it a big texture atlas, for example,
Okay.
like putting all the different things in just one big image, like
Yeah.
4,000 by 4,000 pixels, or back in the day it had to be 2,000 to 2,000 max, but still, um, you could actually get 3 draw calls, and then because of all the things batching on the CPU and all the textures batching and all the animations batching, you could drop in like 100 million characters, and it was all still
Okay.
just 3 draw calls.
Okay.
And that's
That's
when
it.
that
Is
and
yeah.
and that
One question here. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt you. Now it came. Is that the reason why, for example, my daughters play some, I don't know, some characters and they
Hmm.
put clothes, pink, different clothes, so you can change?
Yeah, yeah.
Does that mean that there is basically the focus of the game is to be less characters? It's usually one or two, if I may call it like that, one or two characters.
Sometimes,
So
yeah.
you put the clothes on them, put, I don't know, some hat and mustache or whatever there. So does that mean that, for example, the focus of the game is more focused on the clothes instead of the characters? Basically, you have just one
No,
basic.
no, I think that is more nowadays because you can sell a lot of cosmetics and as DLCs and all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, you wanted to, and that's still a practice that happens nowadays because it's a form of
Okay.
optimization. And that's where I came, where I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
But the thing is that those were best practices back in the day. I think they still uphold nowadays. Correct me if I'm wrong, people that are
Yeah.
listening and who are more into it right now than I am. But normally it would help to smooth the game a
Ah,
lot,
okay.
and
Yeah.
that's how I came to and for me that was like an optimization I figured out during my studies. I wanted to
Yeah.
create like a nice asset bundle out of it, sell it, and that's why I also started my first company was a gaming company. I
Yeah.
only was a solopreneur in it because, well, I couldn't really program yet to a certain degree, but not in in that way. So that of course that failed eventually. But this,
Yeah.
this was like something that really for me to dive into automation and into optimization. And if
Yeah.
I look in my current career or in like
Yeah.
the past years, that's when I started more into IT. Everything for me started like, how can we do this more efficient as possible, and optimized, because
Yeah.
I think those are related to each other.
Indeed.
And that also comes to everything nowadays, right? If I look now at my thing, especially in consultancy, but also in trainings, is how can you bring all these learning materials, all this knowledge,
True.
how can you bring it in an efficient and optimized way to your students or
True.
to your clients or to the end user? And I think that is, if I really have to look at yeah, what for me, what is everything behind it is being so as efficient and optimized as possible. And I'm certainly not doing that in every single way,
Yeah.
but I always try to do it as long as it feels good
True.
for me.
True. And maybe one comment on what you said, the last two, three sentences. Maybe, yeah, there is a lot of students that even after the training or also colleagues, also friends of mine, Martin, you're saying MS Learn, Microsoft Learn. Also, some of them are listening the podcast. Yeah, I heard that MS Learn, Microsoft Learn. And whenever I open, Martin, I don't know where should I go. It's like a big book, 10 parts,
Yeah.
and then which part should I take it out, which is quite complex to figure it out. And then, oh, I heard this on the internet. I don't know, AI. So anyone clicked AI, but in the AI it says, yeah, this is a service in Azure, and for what is Azure now, from where this come from, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So it's a little bit, yeah, this connection, I think it's missing to the people. Otherwise, indeed, MS Learn, it's a lot of books into one place, let's call it like that, but it's really quite complex. I fully agree on that with you, that the people cannot really figure it out, what they should read, what they should learn, if I may call it like that.
Yeah, no, and that's also where the MCT comes in and can help guide. Of course,
True.
based on the Microsoft Learn subject is that, yeah, sometimes it's a needle in a haystack, let's say it like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But often the best practices there, I think, is just always follow the paths. And Microsoft does create some learning paths, like if you want to, for example, learn the AZ900, you can
yeah,
actually just
true.
follow the path of the AZ900. Be
Yeah,
aware, at least back in the day, and I think it sometimes still happens, that if you change it to your native language instead of English,
yeah,
that there can be some discrepancies in
yeah, that's true.
modules.
Yeah,
But besides, if you put it in English, which is often recommended because all the
yeah,
exams are often in English,
yeah,
you can just follow along that way. If you are in a company that has quite a big spend on Microsoft, so like a little bit based on Microsoft company, and we already concluded
yeah,
that's a lot of companies, especially in Europe.
indeed.
There is a possibility that you have the AC, the Enterprise Skills Initiative.
Yeah,
I know that a lot of MCTs have already asked for, like, hey, we want to have access to that as well, because my
yeah,
clients, for example, have access to it, which is basically Microsoft Learn on steroids.
yeah,
It does not only contain all the learning paths in a more efficient way, I would say,
yeah,
but it also has like the training days on it. Easy way of course, you can go to trainingdays.microsoft.com if I'm correct, or events.microsoft.com, and then go to the
yeah,
section for training days, and you can schedule free training. So know that already.
true.
That's also in there. Also, depending on what kind of contracts you have as a company, you can get free personal trainings, and you can get it
Yeah,
in two ways. One is from delivered by Microsoft itself. So you
yeah,
get it from a Microsoft Cloud Architect, I think, or a specific Microsoft trainer in-house.
yeah,
Or you can get it then via a Microsoft Learning partner. So, for example, in the Netherlands,
true.
I think it's Global Knowledge that is connected to it. I don't know if it was also Vijfhart, but there are a few learning partners in the Netherlands, the big ones that are connected to the AC
Yeah,
as well. So it's like
yeah,
a single pane of glass for learning, which is really helpful in business within companies.
yeah,
For all the other students, yeah, we have to do it with Microsoft Docs, and then I would really recommend go to the most graphical interface where you have all the learning paths and just follow along that. Also, depending on what kind of learner you are, there are like three or four different kinds. You have the
yeah,
one that really likes to listen, likes to do,
yeah,
likes to learns by writing it down, and the one that learns by basically watching. Um, so for to do, I would say, yeah, if you have a credit
there
card,
is a lot of
don't.
videos also. No, there is also
Yeah, yeah,
videos. So that
yeah,
is what I
yeah.
noticed in the last couple of months.
Yes, exactly. So that for those different kinds of learners, if you really like to read, Microsoft Docs of Microsoft Learn is really the way to go. You can follow the paths along and do that. There are some videos, and there are some what is it? VMs that spin up on the background, and you can
Yeah,
do some exercises. Else, I would say, yeah, get the 50 free Azure credits and play around in Azure yourself, for example, or
true.
in one of the other Power Platform, or because Power Platform, for most of the part, if you just have a Windows computer, you can already do a lot of it for free on your computer itself.
Yeah,
For Microsoft Dynamics, which is normally quite an expensive thing, there is a demo environment available, so you can actually just play
true.
around in Microsoft Dynamics in that way. Um, so that those are a few options. I
I
don't
think
know for
you
secure.
said more than enough. Even I don't want to
No, yeah,
interrupt you
but
because
there's a few things, and of course, what you said with videos. For example, if you really want to learn Azure, I would
yeah,
really recommend YouTube videos from John Saville. For
yeah,
example, you can really explain that great in such a great way.
true.
Um, and I think through audio, yeah, listen to podcasts like these, or other podcasts from trainers that go through the training material. I think there are quite a lot. I have my own,
True.
which is in Dutch, the Azure Adventure. We just
Yeah,
went through the AC 900 and the AC 104, the Azure Administrator. So those things can help as well.
true.
Um, I think then you already covered like a lot of learning styles.
Indeed. Even I don't want to interrupt you, but also didn't want to ask a question. And
Yeah.
basically, I want to conclude with this. But the last question that I have for you is, how do you see what will happen in the next 5, 10 years, and what with AI and all that we said on the beginning, and what the people need to learn, and why I'm saying all of that? A couple of months ago, I got the how it's called, the World Finance Report, something something about the jobs, and the
Hmm.
people are afraid, yeah, AI will take my job, and it's still a case. By the way, in the last 2 months, I'm facing with a lot of, let's call it, meetings with really senior people, even more senior than me, and they still, if I may say like that, believe that AI will take their job, they will lose their job, this, that, and all that stuff, which is I can't understand such a senior people to think like that instead of how they can align there, but that's a different story. But my to do not crush the picture that Bruce created, how the people can learn and gain a new knowledge. I want to ask you, mate, how the people can learn and follow the latest AI technologies, if I may say like that. How do you follow? Let's call it like that.
How do I, oh, what I do is I always do a lot of research. When I want to learn a subject, I read blogs, I go look stuff up myself. So Googling is a great skill to have, I would say. And we don't call it
Indeed.
Binging because, but
Yeah.
Googling.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
that is
True.
that is a great skill, and you often do that. If you're in the, we already said it. A lot of things change on a daily basis. That does not really only mean
True.
for AI. It's also still for data. It's also for cloud engineering. It's for security. You always learn something new on a day.
True.
And sometimes
Indeed.
you just have to search it and learn and see, okay, now Microsoft updated this or another company updated that, and now it works like this. You have to
Yeah.
go through it. You do it yourself once, you learn from it, and then you can pass on that knowledge. Um, if I would say, and of course, I think for the next 5 to 10 years, that's also like a very managerial question.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always hate that. No, but
Yeah.
I think what is I do think that AI will scrap some jobs,
Yeah.
but only to a certain degree.
True.
People always say like, yeah, it will replace engineers. Yes, it will replace developers. I don't think that is going to happen. I do think maybe for the most basic stuff, yes, maybe, yeah. If you
Yeah.
just say like generate me an HTML template, yeah, you don't need a web designer for that, maybe.
Okay.
Uh, but I think a lot what AI does not really do yet, and maybe that will change in the next years, is configuration and domain knowledge.
Yeah.
And
True.
let's be honest, that is basically because everybody can learn how to code, and that's code.
True. Yeah.
Not
True.
everybody can learn how to program because I think coding and programming are two different skills. Because
True.
knowing a language and actually writing logic are two different things.
True.
But a lot of people that are in their job, they have specific domain knowledge, and that is something that AI does not have yet.
True.
And
That's
I
true.
that is the value of a lot of people. Yes, it can automate maybe sending out an invoice, and that can reduce administrative work for somebody at a finance department. But that does not mean that you become obsolete. It means that your
True.
work just changes. Um,
Indeed.
and I think the biggest biggest change that is going to happen in
Okay.
the next
Yeah.
5 years is that people's job will change, and a lot of people can't
True.
handle change that well.
True.
And
And
so I
that's a
think
valid point. That's a valid point because we are thinking the same on what, yeah, I was thinking also in the last couple of months. It's not that AI will take your job, but your
no,
job will be changed, readjusted, if I may call it like that.
yes,
If you today go on a left and just turn on the computer and do the stuff, now when you go on left, the computer will be turned on. You can just immediately start typing and do the
for
stuff that you need.
example, yeah.
Yeah, for example, indeed, that is why I'm saying nice. Okay, that's a
Yeah,
nice.
so it's just that there's going to be a lot of change, and you have to be able to adapt to the change. And I think that is something that people really need to learn, because all things you can learn, like people learn how to ride a bike, people learn how to ride a car. Okay, some
True.
people don't, if you don't have a driver's license, but
Yeah,
besides that, you can learn all those things. But I think the biggest thing here is how to deal with change, and how also is how to adopt it to your job.
true.
Um, because let's be honest, uh, I'm dyslexic. I hate writing documents. But what I really found, yeah, that is the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's stupid if you're
yeah,
also an architect, because you write often quite a lot of documents. But
yeah,
I like always to keep it in one pagers and in a lot of images, because like a picture says more than 1,000 words 9 out of 10
yeah.
times.
True.
But that's something where I found ChatGPT, for example, a very great tool, because it really helps me speed up writing documents. I can just give all the bullets, I can give the whole designs, I can write that down how I have it in my head, and he
Yeah,
just makes it uh, into correct sentences, make sure the grammar is correct, all that kind of stuff. I can easily translate it from Dutch to English, and often I write it in English and then get it translated to Dutch.
Dutch. Yeah,
That's just how I work. Even when I'm
yeah,
native Dutch, I often write in English because I'm so used to it
yeah.
from my job. Um, and I think, yeah, people need to see AI thinking more as a productivity boost, and that it
True.
will automate them away, and just
True.
adjust to it, learn how to use it in your advantage. And I think that's the most important part.
True. And if I connect to what you said 5 minutes ago about what to learn and where is the material,
Yeah,
what's the ways, and if I continue now, exclude myself from the question and just continue on the AI thing, it's a really nice 10 minutes, if I may call it that, like that, even for people that are still thinking what should they do, where should they go, and where to go, and all this stuff. I can share just a real practical example that helped me. I'm just now talking loudly. 6 7 months ago I switched from Spotify to YouTube Premium, if I may call it that. The
yeah,
cost monthly was the same, if I may say like that.
mm,
But what I see better, that on the YouTube, the suggestions about AI and all that stuff that's happening, I got the news faster, if I may call it
yeah,
that, but I can learn also faster. That's how I know, by the way, for N8N, the service that you said,
yeah,
because 8 months ago when I switched, there was AI automation, the first AI automation. Then there was also additional website make.com, something like
yeah,
that, which is similar on this one. And those things nobody's telling you at work or client or consultancy. Either you learn by yourself, either you will never learn. So also as a benefit to put the cherry on the top, I'm saying on what Bruce said, for example, all the people that will watch later, yeah, try. There is I don't know if there is a trial version. Try 10 days of YouTube, just see what type of a suggestion. There is so many material now. I think sometimes, how I was saying to one of my friends, if somebody can lock me in some door, disconnect me from the world for a month, I think I can gain any type of a knowledge. If you say, Martin, you need to become this, that, and all that stuff, sit on YouTube, you have everything. Even how to fix your toilet, how to
yeah,
fix your
true, yeah,
bedroom, everything, but really everything. And I think nobody is able to complain. And I fully agree on that one. I think the biggest problem, it will be here, the mindset to adjust on this AI realignment for
yeah.
yourself on what to focus and what to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think a big addition, one big addition to that is you are still the expert
True.
and you still need to make the decisions. Do not
True.
let a chatbot make the decisions for you because it does not always understand the context correct. Or the algorithm is not for up to it. So do not let it, for example, if you're like in a management position or in a senior position or principal, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you are a decision maker, do not ask ChatGPT like, what should I do with this if you have no base knowledge of that subject. Really, just go to an expert, consult them for it. And I can understand in some positions it's hard to actually go to somebody and ask like for advice. Especially in some form of management, I can
Yeah.
understand that's hard. But that's also a part of change that you need to then go
True.
through. You know, it's not like it's the end of the world if you ask a coworker or somebody you manage like, hey, how do you look at this? This is also quite normal actually. And
Indeed.
but I can understand in some company cultures that's not done. But rather do that than just to ask like a chat GPT like, hey, what do I need to do with this and this and this, and let him say something, because it does not have to be correct, and then you make false assumptions based on what AI scrapes from the web. And also on the web, there are not a lot of fictional stories, right? Or
True.
there are things on there, me included. If I
Yeah.
I wrote a lot of blogs. Some blogs are like from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that information is not valid anymore because now they changed it. That's what
Changed. Indeed.
I already said. Like things change on a daily basis. So if it, for example, scrapes that block and it tells you, yeah, you have to do it like this and this and this, it does not mean that it has to be like that
That.
nowadays. So
True.
always, and that's I think the real cherry on top is to
True.
always check with an expert, verify it, and don't be scared to ask questions.
True.
Adapt to it, make the change, as be well informed,
True.
and don't trust AI on its blue eyes.
Tonight, I agree with everything with you. I'm even surprised from myself, and I will not rush this nice talk from you in the last 15 minutes. I really like it, by the way. And I will finish here, and I will just say a biggest thank you to you, mate. Thank you for your
Yes, no
time,
worries.
first of all. Say hello to Satya if you when you will drink
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah.
To him. Tell him that we were complaining about the prices about the Copilot licenses and all that stuff. You
Yeah.
can share that with him on a friend based and all that stuff. But in total, thank you a lot. Thank you for your time, mate. And yeah, thanks for all the other people that were watching. And have a nice evening, all. Thank you,
Yes.
mate.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you.
Bye, and see you
Bye.
next time because we got way more to talk about.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you, mate.